you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird, and I'm here to discuss the third season of Chucky, now that it is finally complete. And I gotta tell you guys, I really enjoyed this season. I had my issues with the first two seasons, and this one I just kind of had way less issues with. I mean, I had a couple here and there, but overall, I just really enjoyed this season, I think more than the first two seasons, except for a couple little aspects, which I'll get into. So, overall, I think season 3 is very much worth your time, especially for longtime Chucky fans. They kind of, by the end, status quos are kind of reset after a fashion, and it's I like that, honestly. I liked how it ultimately ended. I'm going to try and stay away from the spoilers, but, most of the people that are going to watch this will have watched it anyway, so I'll try and make allusions that you guys will understand. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this season. I'll get into it further in depth here, starting with the story overall, which is basically that this season, Chucky went to the White House. He positioned himself to be found by the young son of the current president of the United States, of course, played by Devon Sawa, because he plays a character in every single season of the show. And so in this one, he's the president, he has a wife and 2 children, and they are all actually mourning the loss of another son that they had that unfortunately passed away. So Chucky basically appears to this young son who's still there and, feeling lonely, and so he takes Chucky in, and ultimately the parents let him bring the doll into the house because, it's a doll, and what harm can it ultimately do, even though it's the White House. And then the whole first half of the season is basically Chucky wreaking havoc in the White House. And what's interesting about that is that as people die, a new character is brought in who is the cleanup guy, essentially, for the White House. And he's a main character throughout the show because stuff keeps happening and he has to keep trying to fix it so that the public doesn't think less of the current president and everything like that. This current president, by the way, his motto is complete transparency. So they have to get around the fact that he wants to be completely open and honest with the public at all times, even when things are going awry in the White House. So there's actually quite a bit of fun they can have dramatically there. Of course, they did have to bring in Lexi and Devin and Jake from the first 2 seasons. They discover that Chucky Chucky just straight up calls them and gives them a hint as to where he's at, because they thought he was done for after the second season. But nope, he is still around, and he drops a hint where he is. And so they eventually try and work out a way to get into the White House, which is by the older son of the president, who is about Lexi's age. So she kind of tries to, she matches him on a dating app or something like that, if I recall correctly. And, something along those lines where, younger people can meet online, and then she gets invited to the White House, and she's allowed to bring Devin and Jake because they're her close friends. And so they all sort of become friends with this son of the president. And by the end of the first half of the season, something has happened, and Chucky has fallen out of favor with Damballa after all of these years, who is, of course, his god, Ade Dewey Damballa. That's who he prayed to that's the voodoo god he prayed to in order to transfer his soul the very first time and every time after that. But since he's been on the show, he's had run-ins with the Catholic Church, exorcisms, and a bunch of different things. And so he's fallen out of favor with Damballa, and as a result, he's rapidly aging. And halfway through the season, we're left with a very aged Chucky. And that's what they pick up on in the second half of the season, which they took a break, like a couple-month break, in between part 1 and part 2, if I recall correctly, maybe just a month or something like that, but there was a break there. And so it's old Chucky trying to figure out what he wants to do now that he is, out of Dembala's favor and facing mortality for the first time. True mortality, you know, Chucky always comes back, but in this case, he basically assumed there was no coming back, so he wanted to go out with the biggest blaze of glory that he could, and so he sets his eyes on the White House's nukes. And I won't say what happens from there, but it is a really entertaining back half of the season. It's a great setup. It's an entertaining back half of the season. They avoided most of the pitfalls that I think they ran into in the first 2 seasons, with some annoyances and some characters that I didn't really care much about. They tried to focus on a lot in the first 2 seasons, and this one, they kind of narrowed it down, where it's mostly the White House stuff. There's very little Tiffany. I mean, the Tiffany subplot is like maybe 5 minutes per episode, and that's her basically being put on death row for all of the events up until this point, in the body of Jennifer Tilly. And so her whole goal is to try and figure out a way to not die by the end of the season. So that's one subplot, and I think that's really the only, like, there's no real Nika through line. You know, that's not to say she doesn't appear. There's not really Gigi in this season, although they're talked about. And then there's a lot that we don't get in this season that they just don't have to crowd the script with. And I think that worked in the show's favor. They kept it lean. It was the president's family and the kids, and that was it, right? It wasn't a bunch of, you know, there was White House staff and things like that we learned along the way, but I felt like it was a lot more focused season, and I liked that. So that was the story of the season, and I enjoyed how it played out. Acting wise, I think everyone has gotten a lot better. I actually enjoyed Jake this season. Devin is pretty much the same throughout. I never had a problem with Devin. He's still Devin. Lexi, I enjoyed this season, actually, because she is a lot less kind of fake and over the top, you know, just you know, vapid and stuff like that. She's a little more grounded because she actually starts to have feelings for the president's son and things like that. I liked how that played out. That was good. And Jake actually got to have a little fun in the last episode that I was really surprised and pleased with. I thought he did a great job with what they did. Again, I don't want to spoil, but he got to have a little bit of fun, and it was great. And I will say that in the last couple of episodes, Brad Dourif himself actually got to play Charles Lee Ray, and I won't say how or why, but he had an extensive turn as Charles Lee Ray once again in this, and it was fucking awesome to see. Like, I thought the writing was as over the top as the season is. Yes, it's campy. He's at the White House. I actually thought that Don Mancini really had a good hold on the writing in this season, and I think it's the strongest the writing has been probably in the whole series so far. Just because I was entertained and I was bought into everything. So I had a really good time with this season, you guys. Filmmaking wise, I am actually impressed with the level of quality. It is very much, I mean, it's a 8 or 10 episode season. I think it's an 8 episode season, right? All of them have been 8 episodes. And that is their 8 20 to 25 minute episodes. So that's basically a 2 hour and 20 minute long movies, hour and a half long movies that we're getting every single year. So 2 new Chucky movies per year, basically, just spread out in TV form. And it's amazing. It's great. It's the whole original cast. It's Don Mancini's story that is just continuing. They're still drawing on things way back. There was some really great nods to Bride towards the end of the season, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, I'm actually very much excited for a season 4. They put a little phone number out that you can call if you want to make sure there's a season 4. I very much want to see a season 4. They've done a great job, and it's this is the best season so far. So filmmaking wise, they did a great job. Effects wise, I enjoyed all of the Chucky effects in this, and especially when we got to old Chucky doll, like it was really creepy. And then we got eventually we got little appearances from the different Chuckies from throughout the seasons. That was really cool. And yeah, I mean, the effects were better in this season, I think, than the other seasons. There was tons of gore in this season. I feel like this was easily the goriest season, and I obviously appreciate that. I'm a gore hound on this channel, very much so, and they did not shy away. Again, for being technically, I think it's USA that it airs, not Sci-Fi. Is USA even a thing anymore? I don't know. I know it's on Peacock. That's where I watch it. I'm not sure where it actually is on TV, but it's got to be a late slot because this was gory as hell, and I was all about it every time. I mean, there's an unaliving that happens, and like it is all shown, and like there's some really great gore in this season. And again, standout. And shout out, by the way, to Tom Newell, who actually edited, I think, 2 episodes in this season. At least one. I know he did at least one, but I'm not sure if he did one in the first half of the season, too. But Tom did a great job on that episode, and shout out to him because he actually edited Dylan's New Nightmare. So that's really, really awesome. So yeah, guys, I mean, Chucky Season 3, I'm not going to belabor this. It's very much worth your time. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Again, it's a little campy. It's not as campy, in my opinion, as the last 2 seasons were. I think even though they went to the White House, they actually reined in some of the campiness. I thought this was a good balance. This was the second season. Okay, so the first season I would say is between Bride and Seed. The second season was very Seed and beyond. This season was much more Child's Play 3 to Bride. Mixed, and I appreciated that very much. Like, I really like that. So if you can pick up what I'm laying down there as far as that comparison goes, then awesome. You'll understand what I mean when I'm talking about season 3 of Chucky. Very much worth your time. Shout out to everyone involved, and thank you guys very much for watching this review. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. If you've seen the the 3rd season of Chucky, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I'd be very curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. But thanks again for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.